To start us off in season number 4, we're going to look at all of the transfers that happened during the 4th season. As always, we're going to kick off with the players that have left the club first. We'll then introduce the new players who have come in to replace them. And the first player that left was Mark Pubil. You might have heard me talk about him at the end of the previous episode, saying he wasn't my preferred right back, but he was still a young player who could develop. I did have Xavi Grand and Trilly ahead of him, but I didn't expect this to happen. A £30 million bid came in from Al Shabab. We put him on a plane. He has gone out to the Middle East, and we took the money, and he has left the club. The only other player to leave during season 4 was Dion Lopi, a midfielder who has done nothing wrong. He just cannot get into my team. I think there are players that are ahead of him in terms of the players that I've signed, and it's just one of those where, as a rotation piece, even now, the squad depth that we have in the midfield, he wasn't getting game time. Actually sold him for a bargain £500,000. He has gone and joined Lens in France. So with the money that came in from those two transfers, which was around £30 million, £30.5 million. We already had £4.3 million in the bank. It meant that we had around £35 million in the transfer kitty, and we went and signed some really good players in season 4. So the first player that came in was Arno Pradas. He's a player that's come from Barcelona. Only a bargain signing really of around £2 million. Can play wide left, can play wide right, can also play as a makeshift striker. His game is built around his pace and his acceleration, his dribbling and his first touch, also his technique. Now, he isn't going to get into the first team straight away. He's not going to be displacing Ramazani or Akamatch, but what he can do is come in and provide a rotation option for cup games and those kinds of things, just to see how he's going to develop as we go further into the series. The next player to come in was Jano Montserrat. Now, we had to pay up for him. We paid around £18 million, which I think was $15 million up front, $3 million in add-ons, which may seem crazy, but he's one of the higher rated Spanish wonder kids, and he's one that we had our eye on earlier on in the save, and only now in season 4 could we make that happen. So a decent signing, and I think he has a chance of being a starter in a number of positions, because he can play wide left, can play through the middle, can also play on the right. And the final player to come in was Danny Avila. He's a player that we paid £9 million for. He's young, at 20 years old still, even at this stage of the game, 4 seasons in, but he does come equipped with a lot of weapons: natural fitness, balance, agility, passing, marking, tackling, technique. He's one of those destroyers in the middle of the park who just destroys games for the opposition, breaks up plays, can pass the ball out, tries to play his way out of trouble, likes to switch the ball out wide in his player traits. He really is one of those players who you might not have heard of, but if you was to buy him and see him play, he's absolutely fantastic. So that rounds up all of the transfers for season 4, the players that have left, the players that have arrived, and how the squad is now being moulded. The big question, as always, did we spend the money wisely? What happened in the competitions? It turns out that in season 4 we would take a step back in the league. If you remember, in the previous season we had finished second and we gained 84 points. For the first time in the save, we have taken a step back in La Liga. Finishing in 4th though, qualifying for the Champions League, which I think had a big part to play in it because of the step up in quality of football in Europe, as well as the squad sizes needed to play as many games as we have. But 4th place isn't too bad, and we did only finish 12 points behind Barcelona, who won the league, which is quite impressive considering we finished 20 points behind and finished second last season with Real Madrid. In terms of the Champions League, we'll get to that in just a second because I've stopped the game before the final. As you can see, Barcelona and Borussia Dortmund is the final of that. In the Copa del Rey, we were knocked out in the 4th round once again after winning it last season. We are now back to being 4th round runners-up. 4th round knockout, sorry. And in the Supercopa de España, we would finish as runners-up. We lose 6-1 to Real Madrid, getting taught a very, very big lesson, which won't go down well with the board because we got beat 6-0 by Real Madrid in the previous season. Looking at the Champions League then, we would go into the league phase and we would finish just inside of the requirements to qualify, finishing down in 24th place, playing 8, winning 3, losing 5. We had a -2 goal difference, and we finished on 9 points, level with a few other teams, but managing to get through, and that would put us into the knockout playoff round where we would come up against Nice. We would beat them 3-2 on aggregate. That would put us into the round of 16. We would come up against Barcelona and we would lose 4-2 to Barcelona over 2 legs, which isn't disappointing at all because a team of Barcelona's calibre in the Champions League, and as you can see, they have reached the final. So let's have a look at the league then and break it down how we got into 4th place. So this season we would win 25 of the 38 games, we would draw 3 times, we would lose 10, have a goal difference of just 28 and finish on 78 points. Now, it's not a bad finish considering we're in 4th place and qualified for the Champions League, but looking just ahead of us, we would finish just 4 points behind Seville and Real Madrid, who would finish in 3rd and 2nd, and only the 12 points behind Barcelona. So even though it looks like a step back, it's actually not that bad of a step back considering we dropped off by 6 points, but we are a lot closer to Real Madrid than what we were last season, and Barcelona have taken a step forward too. Looking at some of the stats then, Iker Villa would finish as the top goal scorer, or the Pichichi winner. He got 27 goals. Assists, 15 for Akamatch, which proves that he has come into the team and really improved us. And he also got 7 Player of the Match awards. If we go into the squad to have a look at how the goals were shared about, Iker Villa would get 36 goals from 49 appearances. You would have Akamatch with 18 goals but 21 assists. You'd then have Casado with 9 goals and 13 assists. Ramazani with 8 goals and 14 assists. So, sharing around the assists, Akamatch really excelling in terms of the creativity and Villa excelling in terms of the goals. So, a decent season despite that step back, finishing 4th and qualifying again for the Champions League. 4th round of the Copa del Rey comes back to haunt us, and we finish runners-up in the Supercopa de España. Looking at the finances as we head into season number 5, we have 50 million in the bank now, which is quite interesting because in the last couple of episodes we have had around 26 million pounds, and it means that finally we have a transfer budget to start us off of 21.7 million. Now that's important because some of the better wonder kids are just out of our reach. Now we have built our reputation as a La Liga team, we still can't sign some of the bigger wonder kids because of the money involved and also the fact that we couldn't afford the wages somewhat. But now we have a £21.7 million transfer budget and a wage budget of 777,000. It looks like we're finally going to be able to sign some of the players that we have looked at for a while. In terms of the club vision now, the board vision, they want to work within the wage budget. We're on course. Be competitive in the Champions League. They're reserving judgment for that next season. And I want to record a La Liga top half finish. So the board really are realistic about what they think that we can achieve. We know that we can go better, and I think we'll finish better than 4th in the next season. Looking at the board feedback, so we get a B for this season and our job security is just secure. They want us to make the most of set pieces, play entertaining football, play high tempo pressing football. The notable highlights: pleased with the level of support in the squad, pleased with the 3-1 victory against Valencia, and pleased with the 1-0 win against Celta Vigo. The disappointing criticisms: lost to Sociedad 2-0, lost to Real Madrid in the league 2-0, and lost 1-0 to Seville in the league. Also, in terms of the supporters, they want us to play attacking football, play entertaining football, play high tempo pressing football, make the most of set pieces. Then in the highlights, the 3-1 win against Valencia, the 3-2 victory against Espanyol, 3-0 victory against Elche. And in the criticisms, the Real Madrid game where we lost 2-0. Disappointed with Akamatch's performances, which is strange considering he scored 14 and assisted 21. Can't please them all, it seems. And they're disappointed about the 2-0 defeat to Sociedad. So overall, a B from the board and the supporters. I think it's a decent season. I'm not too fussed. Our job security is secure as we move towards season number 5. Finally, let's have a look at the squad as we move into the final season. I'm going to do this 2 ways as always. I'm going to start off with what you can see on the screen, which is what I think is my best 11 going forwards. Then we'll have a look at the assistant manager's report and see what he thinks is the best 11 and try and formulate where we think there might be weaknesses and see if we can identify some transfer targets. So to kick me off, I'm going to go with Martin in goal, Gasiurowski, Keiki, Edgar and Grand. Then Avila, Casado and Sotelo in the middle, Ramazani, Akamatch and and Villa up top. Now the top three really are excelling, and there is no need to even look at replacing any of them. Villa, Ramazani and Akamatch have been fantastic, all playing brilliant football. Villa is scoring goals. Two wide players really are creating chances and even scoring and chipping in with the goals too. Midfield three now looks settled with Avila coming in, Casado and Sotelo. That is a rock solid midfield. Then Gasurowski, Keiki, Edgar and Grande. Now it's interesting, Edgar's back in a central defensive position. Both Martin and Francis have been a little bit disappointing, and I do think that Edgar is probably the best option in a centre-back role. If we go into the squad planner and look at what the assistant best 11 is, so he goes with Martin, Centelles, Edgar, Keiki, Francis. He goes with Sotelo, Avila and Casado, Ramazani, Akamatch and Villar. So once again, both agree on the front three being a set front three. You can see massive improvements now coming from those three, certainly in terms of their output in goals and assists. In the midfield three, we have the same three but in different roles. So Casado, Avila and Sotelo. Solid midfield. The back four is where we always seem to have disagreements. So he goes with Centelles. I still would stick with Gasurowski. I think he's a brilliant player. Edgar gets in his back four now with Keiki, and then Francis on the right, whereas I would pick Grand. So again, we're pretty much on the same page with most of the players, but I do think that there is a few areas where we probably could improve. It's saying that Francis and Grand are 3-star at right back. I don't know if there's too much more development to come from them. Sotelo and Dual being 2-star at the Segunda Volante, I think is nonsense, because Sotelo plays pretty well in that position, but so does Casado, which is why I would switch them over. If we go into the assistant report then to look at some of the weaknesses and the strengths. So starting off with the weaknesses again, teamwork isn't the best, overall depth, overall squad standard, tackling, long throws, goals against one-on-ones. So most of this is pretty much still the same, and as I explained previously, I think when you're signing youth players, you don't really get a grasp of how a team is built until that team is developed. So these players now have played together for a number of years, and I think that is something that improves as you go along. The depth and the squad standard, I suppose we could sign more players, and I think now we have that £21 million that can certainly go and buy a better standard of youth player if they're still available, whilst we're now going to, we'll be 5 seasons in basically. So the players that were 18 will be now 23, so we're looking at the 16-year-olds who would be 21, so it's going to be difficult to catch those last couple of 16-year-olds who are Spaniards that are really that good, and then we start looking at new gens. In terms of the strengths, Iker Villar is top of the league goal scorers. Youth prospects, we have a number at the club. Also players that are away from the club. We've been effective from through balls. Defensive depth is good. Defence is good. Keiki is superb at centre-back. So I think in terms of the squad, we have good depth, even though it says on the weaknesses that we don't. And I think we can just improve by buying 1 or 2 players that are a little bit stronger in certain areas of the pitch. So a fantastic season 4 has come to a close. Again, we did take a little step back in La Liga, but it's not a massive one. Champions League was a positive because we managed to get through at least to the knockout rounds. Copa del Rey finishing the 4th round, which is our friend, and then the Supercopa de España, we took part and we finished as runner-up, even though we got battered by Real Madrid. So all in all, it's another building block to go into the final season. It's just a question of what can we do, how far can we push forwards into the final season. Right then, if you're still with me at this point of the video, firstly, a big thank you. Secondly, hit the like and subscribe to the channel. I really would appreciate it. Cannot thank you all enough for supporting the channel across the past couple of months. It's been fantastic. It really has. Before you go, don't forget to check the rest of the channel. There are hints, tips, tutorials, Wonder Kids, Let's Plays, a little bit of something for everybody on the channel. For this one, I'm going to leave it there. Big thank you for watching. I'll see you, hopefully, on Season 5 of the Almeria Save.